Warriors, weapons at the ready. Begin.
Hey all, I'm Rachel from Miss Daisy Sewing. We've got Missy down here saying hello. And today we're in a Viking village at the Pagans and Witches Festival in Meriden, Heart of England Centre. And who's this?
Roxy from Foxymitts.
So, do you want to explain what you're doing here today?
So this is the Pagans and Witches Festival, but they also have a Viking reenactment camp, as well as the Viking battles and the big Viking feast we were at last night. I'm sure you can insert some embarrassing footage of 4.
So, what's the difference between Viking reenactment and something like LARPing?
So the main difference is LARPing, you dress up as a character and you play around with that character. For reenactment, we do have our characters. My character is Revna Griffdaughter, but you also try and make everything as time period authentic as possible using whatever archaeological evidence we can find.
Okay.
There is, of course, some guesswork because, unfortunately, everything of linen, cloth, wood, it all rots and decays. We base things mostly on bog finds or in glacial finds.
Excellent. So is there any sort of key pieces that you particularly like that you've got inspired on you today?
So today I have on my edge of my cuffs, my kirtle, and my cloak, we have the headweave braid, the 6-stranded braid. And this is some tablet weave I've made, and it is based on a find in Burka.
Very nice.
I also have on me some little pieces that are based on evidence in York, so a little needle case holder, as well as my little snips.
So is your character specifically a craftswoman, or is this something all Viking ladies would have?
Oh, no. This is a very, very wealthy Viking lady outfit. I would be a landowner. My background, my character is that she's a landowner. She owns a very large flock of sheep. She has a large amount of serfs, aka slaves, or servants. I like to think of them as very badly paid servants, who tend my flocks, who shear my fleece, and they make all the cloth. Cloth is one of the most expensive commodities you would actually have in Viking times.
I'm not going to take any credit for the beautiful trim or the braids, but I did make Roxy's original outfit. So her outfit consists of a wimple, which covers the fact her hair is blue. She has the cloak, which is made of wool, and then 2 kirtles, the red overkirtle and a white underkirtle. She also has a little hood, which she'll pop up in a second, for keeping the weather off of her. And I had to do a little bit of time travel ourselves, back to last November in fact, when I was making a start on another Viking project for Roxy. I absolutely hoard patterns, and thankfully had kept a hold of the kirtle pattern I used originally, so with this handy little sketch that she sent me, I was able to adjust things more to a boy size for her.
It's quite hard to see, but that's the pattern drafted out. So the nice thing with the Viking stuff is it's really just all squares. Big sigh, my dear. So yeah, get this all cut out, and then we can get the edges done.
And that's everything now getting cut out. You can really see what I mean about squares for making up this thing. And yes, I know Vikings didn't have overlockers, but you can guarantee if they did have access to them, they absolutely would have used them.
That's the rough assembly for the outer tunic. I will flip those triangles round. So first thing I'm going to do is put the sleeve on. I'm going to leave a gap here, because this gusset will go in there, sort of like that. And these are doubled just for a bit of extra security. Yeah, I'll do the neck hole later so I get to the right size.
So the rule of thumb is that I can do long seams on the sewing machine, but short seams like on the cuffs and around the bottom need to be done by hand. I also then rinsed and repeated the entire process with the white for the undercurl. And then this is my Fandabby method for cutting in that neck hole. I was avoiding the hand sewing, so decided to make a start on the cloak next. And I literally just draped it on myself and cut out a big rectangle. Nice and easy. My avoidance of hand sewing didn't last terribly long, but I didn't need to line this cloak, so I just figured it would be a quick stitch and just get it out of the way so I had something properly complete. Because this stitch would be visible, I had to use a sort of zigzaggy type stitch, and I was really pleased with how neat I managed to get it by the end.
The next part of this project is the hood, which, as you can see from my very scribbled notes here, is 2 long rectangles and 2 squares. There's also a rough assembly guide on the side there that I put together when I was first making these. I ideally wanted to get a couple of hoods out of what's left, but I don't think that's going to happen, so we'll just see what we can do. Hood is really simple. We've got our 2 rectangles, and we're going to sew on the top here, and then we have 2 squares. So one square is going to go like a diamond, sort of there, and then to there. So we're going to sew there, there, and up here to make the back of the hood. And then the front of the hood is very similar. We're going to have that diamond again, but we're going to leave this bit open for the face, and this little bit will be turned down a little bit to create a square opening. It'll make more sense once sewn.
I really enjoy making the hoods. They always assemble really quickly and they turn out perfect every time. I made the exact same pattern again in the brown linen to act as a lining, and then here you can sort of see me trying to wedge the two together. I then machine sewed around the bottom so that I could flip it right sides out and then hand stitch around the face. Roxy came up for Christmas, which was absolutely lovely, and I completely took advantage of the free labour to get all of that hand sewing done. I'm not sure who hated it more, me or her. Since this was for combat, I actually needed to make 2 separate hats for Roxy. One for her to wear just out and about when she's in the living village, and the other one which would fit with this little bump cap, which was to protect her head should she accidentally get bumped. Assembly for the hat was super easy, just attaching the circle to the brim. I do think it makes Missy look like a Russian Tsar though, for some weird reason. The very last part of the outfit is these little satchels, and these are a great stash buster, which is why there's multiple colours here. So they can basically go with various outfits, or for the kids. You need one big rectangle and one little rectangle, about the size of an A4 bit of paper. And then it's sewing that massive strap. It's one single piece that basically makes the strap and goes around the bottom of the bag, so this is quite a long piece of linen. However, piecing is accurate, so it doesn't matter if it's made up of several bits, which is very helpful in this instance. Assembly is really easy. You just make one great big loop, and then we're just going to stitch it down onto one side, so the front and the back, and then you repeat the same on the other side, and then when you flip it, all of the seams are neatly held on the inside, so it's a really nice and easy trick. And I know zips aren't exactly period accurate, but modern Vikings need to be able to quickly find their keys.
So here I've done that sewing around the edge, and then what that means is if I just grab this, this is the inside basically of the satchel. So go like that. We've got a pocket. Nice proper pocket. And this I'm going to top stitch down in a minute. So we're going to rinse and repeat the same with the front here. So we're going to sew from here around. This is obviously bigger, and then this will be the flap. that will end up with a bit of hand sewing, but we're going to keep that to a minimum. So I didn't film flipping it right side out. You can see the gap there. So I stitched along that way and then up and around and then left the turning gap there. So it's basically done. I need to stitch that closed and stitch that closed. The idea is that it just folds over like yay, and we have a little bag.
And that's how we make a Viking outfit. I did have to message Roxy being like, it's so brown, it's so dull. But you'll see in a moment how she fixed that. And here she is. So key differences are obviously the hat. She still has to wear the wimple to hide the blue hair. With the exception of the trousers, the rest of it's much the same as the women's outfit, the two kirtles and the cloak. Roxy's added braids again to the hems of the kirtle, and today she decided to trade cloaks with one of her friends just to break up the brown a little bit. She is planning on adding some trim to the cloak just to take away from so much brown. This was Roxy's first time in combat, and I'll hand it to her. Being in a field full of adult men trading blows of axes is not my cup of tea, so I'm so proud of her. Although she did die quite a lot.
So we're just going to summarise up with one last little question, and that is, I suppose, why? Like, why is it you do this? Like, what is your favourite thing about the Viking reenactment? So initially I liked the idea of potentially doing combat, which we might get filmed tomorrow. But when I got there, I realised just how many opportunities there were to learn new crafts. And as someone who's primarily a crafter, I was just like, whoa, all the possibilities and opportunities, whoa. And then once I became part of one of the many little groups within the society, you end up becoming like just a part of a big family, and it's very welcoming, they're very supportive, and I don't know, there's something really nice about that feeling of community, of people looking after one another.
Yeah, you don't get that a lot so much
No.
anymore, I don't think.
No, a lot of groups, you go there, you do the thing, you leave. That is not the case for the Vikings.
Later, Roxy told me that it's also the family element that she loves most. Both her children absolutely love coming along to Vikings as well. But on that note, I think this video has rambled on long enough. So, as the Vikings say, vaartwel. Until next time.